Welcome to the Planting Wildflowers podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Leonardis. I'm an entrepreneur, wife, mom, and stepmom. I'm super interested in people and perspectives, and I love how a good conversation can leave you feeling empowered. Sometimes even pique your curiosity to learn and grow. Mostly though, I love how really listening to one another opens up limitless opportunities for that beautiful sense of connection and community that we all love. Thanks for tuning in. Let's be inspired. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Planting Wildflowers podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Leonardis, and I'm going to try really hard to get through today's conversation without killing myself laughing because I have one of my dear friends, Colleen Newton, with us today. You guys, this is one of those girlfriends that you just know. You picture her in your head and you're already having a good time before you even get together. So today's conversation is going to be laced with laughter. But the reason we decided to get together in this podcast format was because she and I we both are owners and operators of a doTerra business. And as such, we've been doing this for years now. We get a lot of questions about why you would do doTerra as a business. And some of those questions come in a gentle form and some of them come in a not so gentle form. But we just thought this would be a really great opportunity for you to listen in with two really regular gals who have been doing this a long time, so have experience for sure under our belts, who both have a very optimistic view of what the future holds for us, particularly in natural health and its relationship to essential oils, specifically doTerra. We just knew that this was a great time to get together and have a healthy conversation in a really real way. So we're sitting together on Zoom right now so that we can see one another. And you guys, let me tell you a little bit about Colleen. I'm so thrilled that it's her that we're having this chat with today because she is truly extra special. She is a doTerra Diamond Leader. And as you learn more about doTerra, you'll learn how epic that really is. And in a nutshell, what it means is that she's helped a lot of people get natural plant medicine basically into their homes. And that's a really special thing. She has always been in health and wellness though. She's been and still is a personal trainer. She is a nutrition consultant. She's worked as a kinesiologist, and she is also a mom of two great boys, little guys. She's married, and she is the biggest Buffalo Bills fan I've ever known. Huge sports fan, which I love. And she's one of those people who are really genuine in her efforts to want to share what she knows with you. Colleen, you couldn't be a more perfect person to spend time with this afternoon and get really real about doTerra as a business. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. You're making me blush. So let me get this straight. They cannot see me.
They can't see you.
Okay. All right. Just making sure, because if I am making faces or things, I want to make sure that it's just
You're and all good.
Them. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. This is actually my first ever podcast appearance. So who better to pop my cherry than you?
Oh. I'm honored.
Okay, so
tell us a little. Yeah, you give us a little bit more color around who you are, as if that last comment doesn't give us a little bit of an indication.
Offside, real, honest.
Love it. Oh, I remember the first time you and I met, and I remember thinking, this is somebody I could spend a lot of time with. I think if it wasn't for the geographic distance between us, that would in fact be the case. You know, we're a few hours apart, but you're one of the most authentic people I've ever known. You just call it like it is, and people really appreciate that. Really appreciate it. So tell us a little bit more about yourself in your own words.
All right. Well, first of all, I felt that exact same way about you when we first started. I remember we were going to a gathering an oil gathering, and I had met you only once before. And most people wouldn't know this about me, but I get really nervous in new social settings. Like, it's almost like I have some social anxiety, even though I can be such a social person. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, everything's going to be okay because Rebecca's going to be there. So at least I know I have her to talk to. So you might even remember me kind of being like right up against you the whole night. But anyways, that's just my little side story about you and I.
I love it.
Okay, so about myself, this might be one of my weaknesses. I actually don't like talking about myself. So like you said, I've always been involved in health and wellness right back to my university days, where I was an NCAA athlete. I played tennis on an NCAA team. And I just have it's always been part of my life. But the wellness side of things and the greening up side of things didn't actually happen until after I had kids, which I think happens a lot with moms, is that you really start to investigate products that you're using around your children or on your children because you have these new beings to take care of and you just really want to give it your all. So for me, I was personal training like crazy. Like, I had an insane schedule leading up till when I went off with my first son. And it was just ingrained in my brain that I was going to go back. I was going to be back to work, 3 or 4 months after he was born. And I would be back taking clients. And I just wasn't going to be that mom that stayed home. It just wasn't going to be for me. And then I held that little baby in my hands, in my arms, and the world completely shifted. And I just never looked back. I never went back to work. I did a little bit of home training. So we converted our garage into a studio so I could do a little bit from home. But other than that, I never went back to working outside of the home, and there was no real plan to either. My husband and I just had an agreement that my role was going to be to raise our kids, however many we had. So we had that little guy. And then 2 years later, we had our second son. And it was then that I had a 2-year-old toddler who was constantly getting sick. And I had a baby who was, I would say, borderline colicky. And for me, I think I had a bout of postpartum depression the first child, but then the second one, they say it usually gets worse with each child. And it definitely got worse with my second son. And I just was in a really unhappy place. So I was searching for products that would be better to be used in our home and coming up sort of empty-handed. Actually, the Think Dirty app was a huge eye-opener for me because I was making huge efforts to buy organic products or, look for high quality, clean products. And labels can be very misleading. So this app, if you guys aren't familiar with it, it helps you scan products in your home and it will spit out a toxicity level for you. So from 1 to 10. So a lot of the natural organic products I were using were like a 7 or 8 out of 10. So that was like where I really started thinking, okay, if things are going to shift here, I need to start taking this into my own hands. And so I had him sick constantly. I needed to stop relying on conventional medicine and antibiotics. Like, when I say he was getting sick a lot, he was on antibiotics 6 to 8 times in a year, which is, I say it now and my chest sinks because I can't believe the person that I was then, but I didn't know any better. And, if you guys are listening and you're in that situation now, there is a better way and things can get better, but it's just taking those steps and starting to do your own research and following that intuition. Because for me, and I think the intuition really gets stronger once you have your babes, right? So for me, I knew there was a better way for us. Every time I gave him that round of antibiotics, I just felt worse and worse. And, they weren't really making him any better, obviously. So I really needed help emotionally. I needed help with him physically and health-wise. And for my baby, who was, obviously having gut issues through, his constant colicky behavior. And then I really wanted to start greening up our home in a way that actually, was true, that I knew, and that meant maybe starting to make my own products. So I had a friend, you guys might know her. Her name's Ange Peters. And I had known Ange, like she was a patron at the gym that I worked at. So I knew her from there, but I also knew her from her barista position at Starbucks. So I would take my grandma for coffee once a week at Starbucks, and I would know Ange from the gym. So she would be there. So it kind of turned into like my grandma fell in love with her. So her and I just had this great relationship. And she at the time was a health blogger. And she was starting to get into oils like within that next short period of time. So I knew that I trusted her. We had built that relationship already. And I knew if she was plugging a product, that it was something that I could trust too. So, and this might blow your mind, or maybe not, maybe you guys are in the same position too. But from the time I first looked into essential oils, it was about a year before I bit the bullet and bought my first home essentials kit. And it was primarily because of the money, which looking back, I kick myself all the time thinking that I could have implemented these natural tools into our home so much sooner. However, I do strongly believe that you will get started when the time is right for you. So they came into our lives in that time period. This was about 5 years ago now. And we've just never looked back. Like I can't even believe the changes in myself, first of all, but just also in the health in our home. That little boy who was on antibiotics that many times within that year when he was 2 has not been on antibiotics since. And that for me is a huge win in itself. We make a lot of our own products. We use very clean products. Emotionally, we rely on the oils a lot. And, they're just, our lives basically revolve around oils all day long. So that's just kind of a little bit of my backstory. I guess I should mention as well that when I got started in oils, I knew that I would be involved in the business. I just knew from watching Ange share that there was a place for me to share this with my large network of people. So I, had a lot of friends. I had a large network of clients from personal training at 3 different facilities. And I just knew that once I started using the oils, I knew that I needed to be responsible to get them into the hands of as many people as possible around me. So, and I think having that love for the product when you are getting into the business, that's the foundation of being a business builder with doTerra, is that you need to love the product and believe in it. And then, you can't really go wrong.
I love that. Yeah. The foundation is trust. The foundation is trust in the product. For me, you described it taking you a year from learning about the oils to when you actually brought them into your life. I was the opposite of that. I didn't really know what I was investing in, but when you speak about intuition, you just kind of feel like whatever this is that's being presented to me seems like the right thing. And I'm sure I'll get duped in life down the road, but this was not one of those situations. This felt like, okay, take this leap of faith, truly leap of faith, bring them into your life, start learning about them, but invite people to learn alongside you so that, so that the entire process is it's like a group effort. And I remember feeling a little intimidated by them when I first got my package, because I went with one of the collections. It's always the best way to go, right? Yeah. And many of the oils that were in that collection, I really had no idea what I was going to do with it. Like you said, I wanted to green up my home. I had a baby I was taking care of. I also had, my mom was not well at the time. And there are a lot of opportunities to integrate the oils. And I just knew that whatever I could do to find ways to integrate them into all parts of my life was something that I was really committed to doing. And like you said, I have not looked back either. The business, maybe that's where we differ. I'm not sure that I knew I wanted to do it as a business. I knew I wanted to share with other people. And I think that's the key thing with doTerra that makes it such a cool opportunity, is that that is doing the business. If you're going to share it with other people, even just verbally say, hey, Colleen, I heard that your son is a little bit colicky. We tried this in my house. Can I offer you a sample of it? That's actually what it means to do doTerra as a business.
Yeah,
It's purely
absolutely.
about sharing with
Yeah.
other people.
I always say too, like as soon as you get the oils and start using them, you turn into that person that literally has an oil for everything. So
Yeah.
it just automatically happens because, you use them in your own home. Let's say, like you said, you're using them for a colicky baby, or you're using them for sleep, or, even emotionally is huge. Headaches are another big one. I find that people really love to use them kind of just to see how they work at the start. But you're automatically, like I always say, you're doing it already. If you are sharing your oils with friends and family, if you're caring about them and genuinely wanting to help them feel better with the natural resources you have on hand, then you're doing it already. And actually, I always say this, it's for me, it felt selfish to not do that.
Yeah.
Like, I know how amazing and powerful and effective these natural tools are, how can I not tell everybody and anybody about them?
That is such, you just made me flash back to something that I haven't thought of in years. Sitting on a plane beside a family who was coming home from Disney. Mom and dad were sitting across the aisle from each other, and each of them had kids with them. The mom, who was sitting right next to me, had their infant daughter, who, the moment the plane took off, was very, very upset with, I'm sure it was her ears. There were maybe a variety of things going. She was very upset. And of course, people aren't always as kind as they could be when there's a crying baby on a plane. And I sat there for a few moments thinking, do I have my lavender roller in my purse? I usually have my lavender roller in my purse. Oh, I'm too scared to, she's going to think I'm nuts for offering it to her. She's going to think I'm mad because her baby's crying. I'll just wait. I'll just wait. And finally, I was like, this poor mom is becoming more and more distressed. And I'm like, how dare you have the solution in your lap and not offer it to her? The worst she could say is no thanks.
Yeah.
So I asked her, I found the courage, which seems so pathetic to me now, the courage to say, can I share this with you? Um, and she actually said to me, is this a lip gloss? Because it was in a roller bottle. I'm like, no, it's a diluted essential oil, which just makes it really safe for you to go ahead and apply to your baby. And the baby actually had bare feet and she was kicking her little feet around. So it was a really easy application. And it was moments, like not even 1 minute. For sure, it wasn't a minute. And that baby settled right down. And I remember the mom's look on her face. And she just said, what is this? I'm like, it's something that you are more than welcome to keep. Please hang on to it. It's essential oil. It's something that all your kids can use. But literally, that moment is an example of all of the daily occurrences where essential oils just make really, really good sense. And you're right. It's selfish not to share what you know. We wouldn't do that in any other part of our lives.
Yeah.
If our kids were struggling with their homework and we knew the answer, you wouldn't withhold the answer.
Yeah.
You would support them through it. And lots of opportunities in the course of every single day for you to do just that thing. So the business is it's exactly that. It's sharing essential oils. I mean, it can grow beyond that for sure, but that's up to your own creation. Everyone will do that very differently. So it's hard to do a talk on what that really looks like because that's of your own making.
Yeah. And I think too, like with us being, like I'm about 5 years in. How many years are you in?
7.
Yeah. So I think sometimes we need to go back to those moments to think, like we always say, okay, go back to the basics because it really, really is that simple. And we don't have to worry about being salespeople or, trying too hard. Like it's just very basic. I remember in the beginning, um, I think it was something that Ange had written, and it said, it's as simple as recommending a restaurant to someone. Like if you went out to dinner at a great restaurant, the next day at work, you would talk about it to people and say, oh, I had this great dish. It was from this restaurant. The service was great. You guys should go check it out. Like it's exactly the same thing. So
It is. It's true of any, especially as women, we always share. If you read a good book, you tell your friends. If you found a great mascara, you tell your friends.
Yeah.
Like you said, the restaurant, you tell your friends. It's not within us to withhold that kind of information. So it's powerful to know that that is the actual core of a doTerra business. So if you're listening and you've always kind of wondered if there was more to it, take it from two. I keep calling us really regular girls. We are extraordinary. We are. Let's.
We're relatable.
Yes, we're relatable. But we're like so many people out there who were just looking to solve for something in their own lives, found a really good solution, and then decided that it was within their capacity, within their heart space to share it with other people. And that's as simple as it is. It's quite special. But Colleen, there would have been a lot of different options available to you. I know you mentioned trust, and you had specific trust in a person who recommended doTerra to you. Was there anything about doTerra beyond someone saying it was great that really attracted you?
I think it was just seeing the different remedies that they offered. So Ange did a really great job of postings on social media, the ways that she was using them. So she would post DIYs for, how to make a roller bottle for, let's say, a stomach issue, or she would post a DIY for a natural cleaner. So I really liked that they would empower me to be making our own solutions. But also I loved that they were so versatile. So they didn't cover just one area of life. So, I made over our medicine cabinet. I made over our cleaning cabinet. I made over basically our every area in our lives, self-care, you name it. We have oils implemented in that area of our home or our lives. So for me, it was not just the person, but it was what the product had to offer.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And it's so great once you start sampling or trying doTerra products, because you don't have to wait for a result. It's one of the very few things that you can try in life where the result is almost immediate. And in some cases it's immediate. Like I think of peppermint right away, and there's just such an immediate effect to that. So, I would tend to agree with you on the product piece. What about now that you've been in this for several years? Is there something that stands out as super attractive that you think if anyone were to ask me what some of the features of being in doTerra are? What would you share knowing what you know now with 5 years experience under your belt?
Your mic is breaking up a little bit, so I need you to repeat that
Oh,
question.
really?
It sounds really fuzzy, like almost like a robot.
How's that?
Same. I sound okay to you?
Yeah, you do.
Hold on. Do you want me to record it and let you hear how it sounds?
Yeah, sure. Let's just make sure we're okay. I'll say something.
Okay, hold on. Listen. I just don't want it to sound like that on your end. Hold on. Okay, I'll say something. Could you hear that?
Yeah. Okay. I just
maybe it will come out fine on your playback, but I just don't want you to go any further if it's not.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just going to write down the time. Okay, I'll go back. Does it sound a little bit better now?
No. Like I can still hear you. You might just have to slow down a little bit. I can still answer, no problem. Like maybe your tech genius can kind of filter that out. I don't know, but
okay. Yeah, because I'm not sure how to I don't know what the heck. Okay, let me ask that question again.
Okay.
Colleen, is there anything now that having 5 years experience under your belt, is there an element of doTERRA that is really attractive to you? Something that if someone had shared this piece of the business with you back then, you would have thought, wow, that's actually really special. That's really cool. Anything that you would share with other people? Like for me, it's the co-impact sourcing model.
Right. Yeah. I would say that like the science side of stuff scared me away at the beginning, only because I don't have a really scientific brain.
Okay.
But now that, like, for instance, when I was teaching my first classes, I would shy away so much from sharing about the science or the co-impact sourcing of the oils, because I found, maybe it just was because I didn't know enough about it, and I thought maybe this is the part of the class that I'll lose people in, like they just want to hear what the oils can do for them and like get on with it. But for me now, when I'm teaching, that's my favorite part of the class to teach, and I think it's the most important, because especially now, essential oil companies and products are popping up all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really important, especially because as we're wanting to integrate essential oils into our lives, we're wanting to do something great for our wellness, right? We're trying to live a more healthy lifestyle. So the product, the purity and the potency of the product is become even more and more important. When I got started, I didn't even research another brand because I just was drawn to doTERRA right away. But now I feel like people can get distracted with so many different options at their fingertips, or they could go to the dollar store, or they could go to Winners or Shoppers Drug Mart or wherever and buy an essential oil there. But now that's my favorite part of the class to teach, because I need people to know that quality is so important. And it's definitely one of my favorite parts about doTERRA. And I always will say the proof is in the sampling, because if we were to give you some random peppermint and then give you a doTERRA peppermint, you would 100% be able to know and see the difference and smell it and experience the difference. So much so that we probably wouldn't even have to teach you about that, just if we handed you the two different samples. But I love educating about that now, because it's something that people really need to know. Because I do feel like if they're making these strides to make their lifestyles and their homes healthier, that it's something really important that they need to know. Because otherwise, if we weren't teaching it, they probably wouldn't know, right? Like it's not, they don't buy the knockoff peppermint because they think it won't work, or because, it's cheaper. I mean, that probably is a reason, but they're not thinking that one is really better than the other. They're just thinking they're getting a better deal on this one, so they're going to use that to try. But really, it can actually probably be more damaging to your health than if you were to just make an investment in the better one. And then for the co-impact sourcing, like that's just a whole nother beautiful model that doTERRA, like I always say, doTERRA, I was drawn to them because of the huge heart of the company. And it's true, like the empowering that goes on both sides of the bottles is really important, because number one, it's getting more and more important to put your dollars where it matters, right? And also for me, it's important to know that where I'm getting my oils from, like farmers and areas in the world, like that they're being treated fairly, and that they're being compensated for providing us with these amazing natural tools, right? Like we need to give them so much more credit than we do, because without them, we wouldn't have them. So I definitely have become more drawn and more passionate about teaching that side of doTERRA versus just what the top 10 oils can do for you.
I love that. When you bring up the science, you're really offering people that opportunity to feel empowered, because you're right. We don't know what we don't know. I think a lot of people are unaware of the fact that there is no governing body that controls the quality of essential oils. It's unlike the food industry, where there are certain standards that are required for the end consumer.
Mhm.
So what that means for the user of essential oils is that they could be picking up a bottle that is less expensive. Maybe it's a much larger bottle. I know, I mean, before I knew, those would have been selling features for me without a doubt.
Yeah.
And then you find out that some of the marketing, like even the words on it, the word organic, the word all natural, all of those things they are techniques. They're the words that we look for as a consumer, to feel good about the decision we're making, when really there is no regulatory body ensuring that what they say is in the bottle is in the bottle. When
Mhm.
you share the science with people at a doTERRA class, or in any way, really, what you're doing is offering them a chance to know that this company prides themselves on the transparency. And if you don't yet have the trust in that, here is the tool that you can go use, look it up for yourself, and discover why this is so. It's the world's largest essential oil company right now, but that's based on the fact that they have in fact been truthful, they have in fact been transparent, and they only commit themselves to offering purity and potency. It's a really sort of electric moment when people discover that the difference is way bigger than what they could have ever imagined. You can get oils anywhere right now.
Yep.
Dollar store, for crying
Yep.
out loud. Canadian Tire, I saw a stand in Canadian Tire. Like, there's something wrong with this picture. It's really cool that that's one of the most attractive features to you, and I'm sure to a lot of people. The co-impact sourcing model, I think, is so super attractive for a lot of different reasons. I know most recently, it seems I've encountered a lot of people who are very concerned with how they invest their money, yes, but they also have this equal concern about how people, like the manufacturers, the distributors, the distillers, people along that chain are treated. We want to make sure that people are treated ethically, regardless of where they are in the world, that they're being paid a fair and on-time wage. There are so many elements to that. And on top of that, an environmental piece that compels us to look deeper into these partnerships that are literally all over the globe. Is it 42 countries now that we're partnering with, most
Yeah.
of which are
42,
developing
45,
nations?
somewhere in there. Yeah.
It's so powerful. It's so powerful to know that the vision of this company is so massive. It's powerful. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about. I've often had people say, is it organic? So
Mhm.
we're able to answer that with scientific proof. That's an easy one for any of us to answer. So if you don't see organic, the word that is always giving you comfort on the bottle that you purchase, it's totally okay. There are no standards for organic testing in a lot of the developing nations. So it is
It's a money thing.
not, you can't say something is something when there is no such thing in that country. So it's beyond organic, and there is a tool that is able to prove that to you. That's why so many practitioners, physicians are so attracted to doTERRA as a company. And I wondered what you thought about that.
About practitioners being attracted to
Yeah,
it.
it's a big deal to know that people within the health industry consider doTERRA a tool that, is a positive thing to share with patients or clients.
For sure. And I think that's also important because there's many people who aren't going to believe that something is great for their health until they hear it from a physician.
Yeah.
So it's great that more and more practitioners in the medical community are turning their eyes onto doTERRA, because unfortunately we can teach classes till we're blue in the face, but for you and I specifically, we're not doctors. And I do make sure to say that at the beginning of every class. But
Yeah.
for me, um, like I keep going back to intuition. Like, I didn't need a doctor to tell me, but that's me. And some people do need a doctor to tell them. So, but with these clinics popping up around the US, that are actually are prime meridian clinics that do actually base their prescriptions around doTerra products. And also, I also love to refer to that hospital in Kentucky that has the entire floor, the new hospital.
Yeah, the oncology, that whole floor is dedicated to doTerra.
So it's primarily, I believe, for emotional wellness while you are dealing with your treatments and your sickness. But still, a whole entire floor dedicated to doTerra, like that's pretty badass. Like
Mhm.
if that doesn't convince you that doTerra is the real deal, then I don't really know what could. Because if it's not that, then what is it? And I often ask people, what is it that's holding you back? And everybody has a different reason. So I think that's important. Why it's important for us to talk about different things like the science and the co-impact sourcing and the ways to use, because each talking point is going to spark something in every different customer. Every person's different. So there's going to be different pieces of doTerra that speak to every different customer.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. And that's why it's so important if you've ever considered looking into doTerra as a product user or someone who is looking to add a residual income opportunity into their life. There is so much information available to you that you will always have an opportunity to make a very informed choice, whether you choose to partner with someone who's already doing the business or you really just prefer to pursue things independently. That either of those scenarios are available to you. But information is abundant, it is transparent, and it is the reason why so many people feel confident in using it for themselves. Like we're talking, people are using these oils on their babies. People are using these on the elderly, people who would have normally been considered under that sensitive umbrella. But there are techniques, obviously, there are safety techniques that are always recommended in doing something like that. But the quality, the potency, the purity of the product is there. So that element of trust can be there right from the beginning and remain the core of everything that you do from that point on.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Colleen, because you and I have done a business with doTerra for a really long time now, and we've done this alongside being moms, we've done this alongside, all the things that have happened recently with the pandemic, homeschooling. We have seen the ebbs and flows of business, and I think that that's a really cool thing because any business will have its ebbs and flows. But some of the key questions that come out of that, the one that stands out to me is you must work all the time in order to keep a business going. We're thinking of traditional style business. You must have to be working all the time. Are you working constantly, is what I hear. And I wonder, from your perspective, is that in fact true? Would you do this if you were working constantly?
I think that brings up a good point that everything in this business is a choice. So you could easily be working all the time. You could make yourself available all the time. And yeah, I did do that at the beginning. I made myself available for whoever, but wanted to talk about oils to me at any time. But that lit me up. Like for me to be sharing the products, it brought me joy to have all these conversations with everybody around me about oils. Now, that being said, if it hadn't have brought me joy, then easily I could have changed things up. So I think it's important to note, and I think one of the main hesitations that people have when they think about committing to this business is that they're getting into something that is going to be just like another thing to do on their list or another commitment. But you are in charge of your own business. You run your own ship. So if you want to be working all the time, you can. If you don't want to be working out all the time, then set up those boundaries for yourself and just make sure you stick to them. Because now I have pockets of time where I work. And if I can't get back to someone immediately, I don't feel guilty about it. Then I get back to them the next day. But I think what's important is that you do the business in a way that brings you joy. And if that's not happening, then you need to step back and look at why. So is it because you're committing too much time? Then if that's the case, then scale it back, because you can put in 2 to 3 hours a week. That's completely fine. Or you can put in 30 to 40 hours a week. Like I said, it's just completely whatever works with you and your schedule and your desire to put in the hours.
Yeah, that is just a perfect answer. And the other thing I would like to add to that is you covered off time so beautifully. Um, there is no actual demand on someone doing the doTERRA business to create all kinds of new things. You don't have to create new programs and, walk people through how to start their own business and, be teaching all the time. What I'm getting at is the fact that being really selective about who you partner with, if you do choose to use doTERRA as, a residual income element of your life, that is to say, doTERRA as a business. When you partner with a team like ours, for example, Colleen, we are very fortunate that we have a very collaborative vibe right across our entire doTERRA team, whereby you have an opportunity to leverage all of the tools that have already been created. If you want to invite new customers to an essential oils beginner class, it's already designed, it's already being taught. You just simply plug people into the conversation. It's brilliant. So as you're learning, you don't have to halt your plans to grow a business. You can begin instantaneously because a support system is built all around you. Additionally, if you have, sometimes friends are interesting. They see you doing something cool and they want to do it too, but you don't have any idea how to launch a new business builder, for example. That too is part of the support circle in many of the doTERRA communities. I know you and I are very fortunate to be part of the one that we are, and leadership is available, or leadership skills, skill building, everything is made available. Everything is free, which is beyond my wildest imagination, that you can access so much education and so much support completely free. And it's available almost always, like very much on demand. So regardless of what your schedule looks like, so like if your distraction to starting a doTERRA business has been time, because Colleen and I get it. We haven't even gotten into this because our conversation, we wanted to keep it a little shorter so that you would keep listening to the end, but we know what some of the drawbacks are. It's usually money or time, which is exactly the reason we even get into doTERRA as a business, is so that we can financially support ourselves, perhaps, or we're looking for time freedom. So oftentimes those very things are the two things that are holding you back, even though they might in fact be your dream or your push. Time is a difficult thing to manage these days, and we totally appreciate that. And that's why joining a collaborative team provides you with so many resources that you can start a business and plug and play. It's not to say you don't have to commit some level of your time, but it is probably far less than what you expect for it to be in order to get that fire, to get the spark going that starts that fire. Beyond that, you take it in whatever direction. Like Colleen said, the amount of time you put into it is what you're going to get out of it, just like anything else. But the effort, when it's put in, is something that definitely rewards you back.
Yeah, and I think it's important there to note too that if you're looking to get into doTERRA just because you want to cover the cost of your monthly oil order, then there's a place for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be earning an income so that you can step away maybe from a job that you're doing that isn't filling you up, then there's that opportunity too. It all goes back to choice and authenticity and just being able to do this in your own individual way. And that is just the beauty behind this business, is that it is whatever you want to make it to be.
That is a really powerful way to kind of bring this conversation to a close, because yeah, it's all there for the taking. We would strongly suggest that doing your own due diligence is always an important element with any decision you make, really. But even with deciding that doTerra might be the way forward for you, take a look, really decide what it is that what you're looking to do. Like Colleen said, cover the cost of your own oils. Or, maybe it is something that you would like to completely replace in your life or even supplement an income. This is the great thing about this business, is that any of those things are possible. And if you look at a traditional style business, that's not always the case. That flexibility is certainly not always there for you. So, I mean, this is a very empowering type business model to be in without any question at all. Colleen, how do we wrap something like this up? You and I could probably talk about doTerra as a business for a really long time, because we've both had
We didn't even scratch
beautiful.
the surface.
What's that?
I said, I almost feel like we didn't even scratch the surface. Like we could
Oh,
talk
I know.
for hours.
Yeah, we get asked so many interesting questions. I think, hey, you know what? One we didn't answer, we have to touch on this one. Won't people be skeptical? Won't people be skeptical of what I'm doing?
For me, it all went back to how much I love the product and how much I felt I needed to share it. So for me, that outweighed that negative potential feeling of what people would think about what I was doing. I mean, of course, it loomed there a little bit, but my passion for the product and my passion to share trumped that, because it's just, I mean, I think once you and once you share that first oil and see how how it's going to impact you, because you've been using them and you've
Yeah.
felt the effects of them. But once you turn on that first client and see how rewarding it is for them and the way that it impacts their lives, that's the real reward. And it's like a hit of adrenaline, right? Like, and you just want to keep going back for more, because there's that feeling that you have that you are empowering other people with these tools, to feel the way that you feel is just it's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it really takes like that. That's one of the things that have come up to me several times is I don't like the idea of selling. And I'm like, well, that's good then, because
Yeah,
that's really not what this is.
me
You,
neither.
you, yeah, I also don't like selling. I mean, sharing with people is a completely different vibe.
Mhm.
And if they choose to purchase, I mean, that's an obvious, yes, there's a product available here. So if you like it the way I believe you will, there's an opportunity for you to purchase it. Here's how you would go about doing that. That is very different than what we perceive selling to actually be. So skepticism will exist in all parts of our life, and this would be no different.
Mhm.
There's always going to be the person who doesn't yet have the same level of courage that you do to try something new. There's always going to be a person out there that does not yet meet your level of courage when it comes to sharing with other people. There's always going to be a fear-based mentality out there with regards to something that people don't understand. And if they don't yet understand essential oils, you can fully expect some resistance, skepticism, resistance, whatever you want to call it. You need to be prepared to stand in your power,
Mhm.
knowing that you made a decision for a specific reason. You're sharing it for a specific reason. And those people that resonate with that level of um, sharing will be the people who show up, ask questions of you. The rest of them will disappear. I know 7 years of doing this. I know who I repel. And I used to feel really bad about that as a sensitive human being. It used to hurt my feelings. But now I really do understand that we're not all meant to see things the same way. We're not all meant to be ready for natural options. I just had the courage to try it in my own home and knew that it was an important thing to share with other people. And those people continue to be the people that I attract into my life. And that's a reward in and of itself.
Yeah. And I think too, when we talk about the sales part of it, um, I like to refer to it more like I'm introducing people to a lifestyle. If they are not ready to embark on that journey, then that is up to them. But
Mhm.
if I'm not putting it out there, then how are they going to know? They're not even going to really have a choice, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think too, like it's relationship building. So some people are going to want to jump on board right away. Other people, it might take 10, 20 touch points. And you'll need to just continue working that relationship. And you'll know like if people are ready or not. And I don't think it should be discouraging if people aren't ready. Maybe they won't ever be ready, and that's totally fine. But
Mhm.
you just need to have faith and consistency that in your sharing, people are going to, just like I did, they're going to come around eventually in their own time.
Yeah, that's a powerful consideration because a lot of people who are listening right now, they feel this something's tugging on their heart,
Mm.
but then their mind is trying to convince them that, there's going to be pitfalls along the way. If we could just sort of park those distractions for a little while and listen to our heart a little more often than we do right now, I think we would be led in the direction of a lot of great things.
Yeah.
doTerra being one of them because they touch on all elements of our lives, our physical, our mental, our emotional well-being. So regardless of what attracts you to, let's even just say the product right now, maybe it's greening up your home, or maybe it is in fact a specific health issue. Whatever it is most definitely worth pursuing. Ask a few questions and then see where that potential could lead, because you're going to have a great experience if you open the doors to natural solutions. It's the original, it's the original answer to everything. Mother Nature has always known best. I don't know how we got so far deviated from that, but it is a really nice thing to be able to return to it through the essential oils. I just love the whole experience. And we didn't even touch on the community, Colleen.
I know.
Like, the community is mind blowing. And I think a lot of people love their work environments a lot. Well, yeah, I think a lot. This work environment is nothing like you can even fathom at this point, because I'm quite certain it's like nothing that exists. It is so supportive. It is so nurturing. It is so encouraging. It's not like anything I've ever known, for sure. And I'm pretty sure you feel the same way.
Well, I think too, like it attracts like-minded people,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And same as your customers, you're going to attract people that feel a connection to you. It's going to be the same with business builders. People in your business community are going to be people who you have a connection with. And imagine in your, let's say you're not doing doTerra, imagine in your place of employment, if you got to hand select people to make up the staff. Like you could create the most beautiful sisterhood of amazing, empowered women. And that's just really what we have. Like, look at you and I, we wouldn't be even having this conversation if it weren't for doTerra.
Yeah.
I've had some of the best friendships come out of this business, and it's just so, so special to me.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that. So, if for no other reason, I mean, we all need that sense of community around us, particularly in these times that we find ourselves in. It's more important. Connection is the number one. And I just feel like this is an opportunity that deserves some consideration for people out there who might be thinking it's the right thing for them for
Yeah.
whatever
And
reason.
let's just go back to this. Like, you're doing it already. If you're a customer of
Yeah.
doTERRA, 100% you're doing it already. So it's just kind of acknowledging that and then figuring out where to go from there. So, I mean, you might already be potentially doing enough to have your oils paid for without even knowing it. So there's just little tweaks you need to make, and you could be, not paying for your doTERRA every month. So
Yep.
it just starts with something small and turns into whatever you want it to.
I love that point the most. So, if you are, in fact, that person who is already using doTerra and you've considered this as something more than product using, ask the person who brought you into this. Ask them what the next step for you specifically would look like. Ask them to plug you into resources. And if that person is maybe no longer within doTerra, you ask another person. There are loads of people that would be willing to connect you with what next steps would look like for you. So resources are abundant, connection is strong, encouragement is super high. It's all the things that you need for a really enjoyable experience. So Colleen, this has been fun. This has been really fun. Like, it's not often that we get to talk about our feelings about the business, the way we see things. We haven't yet been invited to speak on stage.
There might be a reason for that.
Yeah, that's not something
for me anyways.
Yeah, that's maybe one day, but it's really nice to have this conversation in this podcast style because it gives people an opportunity to listen, to consider a few of the things that we've talked about. And there's probably other opinions out there if you're listening and wondering if this is the way we all think. Of course not. But this gives you an opportunity to really listen into two people who have experienced a considerable amount through the business, the ebbs and flows, the pandemic, the whole bit. I feel like that gives you an additional 5 years easily of experience.
Punching out all your work on a nap time for the day.
Right? Yeah. So it's just really nice to be able to bring this to you this way. And if you feel so inclined to look deeper into this for yourself, there'll be some information, some connection for both myself as well as Colleen. You can check the show notes and be able to connect with either of us to ask additional questions. Don't be afraid to do that. Or if you're already
recording, right? We have, for anyone who's on our team, who is on the Whole Fit team, we have that great business opportunity recorded.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things we can plug people into. That'll be in the show notes as well. Oh no, maybe not in the show notes, but something we can plug you into when you reach out to us. But just know that you've got two gals here just giving it to you straight and hoping that you will take this opportunity to look a little bit deeper into it, because it has certainly brought the joy into my life, as I know it has for you, Colleen. And I couldn't be more thrilled that it connected the two of us. I thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
This has been fun. I don't even know that we have to edit anything out, my friend. No. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks so much for being part of the Planting Wildflowers podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you again on a future episode. If you would be so nice as to share this episode with somebody you think that might enjoy learning a little bit more about doTerra, go ahead and do that and make sure that they know that they can check in with those show notes and find some additional resources as well. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode, friends. Thank you for hanging out with us here at the Planting Wildflowers podcast. We'll look forward to seeing you again real soon. And in the meantime, if you would be so kind as to rate, subscribe, and share this podcast with others, I'd be most grateful. We'll catch you again soon. Until then, take good care.